We're in Lebanon right now, in a Hezbollah tunnel. You could spend a day lost in these tunnels. It's an incredibly extensive system. This is what Iran's influence looks like. And if ever there was a question whether or not this is a just war, there is no question. These people have spent a fortune and decades prepping for one thing and one thing only, to bring destruction and death to the people of Israel. My journey to the tunnels of Lebanon began with a meeting with IDF spokesman David Baruch.
I think what we need to first do is to zoom out.
Yeah.
And to go back to a year ago. We're all well aware of the activities, what happened on the 7th of October last year. And we're well aware of the atrocities that took place.
Yeah.
And we're become well aware of the immense tunnel structures that they had in Gaza and the way they used those to actually attack us.
Yeah.
On the 7th of October. What we're seeing is something very similar in Lebanon, a scenario that we've actually been prepared for, and to be quite honest, at a much larger scale, a much bigger threat to the state than what happened even down south in Gaza. Now the only thing left is for you to actually go see those tunnels.
We've just rushed up north to join the 36th Brigade. We're about to go into Lebanon to see some of the newest findings that the IDF has discovered in this part of the country. It's been quite a rush getting up here. We had about an hour's notice before we had to leave the house at the end of Saturday, at the end of Shabbat. I left my kids, my family, got in a car and drove straight up north to see what we're about to see. That's where we are. We're in the middle of a graveyard. You see these are all the graves. And the graves are all placed exactly in the entrance to the tunnel. And the whole purpose of this operation was to hide the entrance to the cave among the graves. So what we're seeing here is the entrance into a tunnel. We're about to climb down into this tunnel over here. This tunnel reportedly is full of ammunition, equipment to equip Hezbollah. This is incredibly well crafted. This reportedly is the longest tunnel found so far inside of Lebanon. We're in a village called Maroun Aras. You can hear the thuds above our heads of the explosions. In this tunnel, reportedly, we were just talking to the brigade commander. Takes us down underground to see a tunnel well equipped with ammunition, with gear, with explosives. So Hezbollah terrorists can walk in, civilians on one side, come out fully equipped fighters on the end, straight into Israeli territory. Look at that. Look at those RPG rocket heads, just piled up over here, neatly in the corner. We have canned food, we have a vest. This entire place is built to a very, very high level. On construction, on the sides, look, I'm a meter 78, so whatever that is, 5'9", and walking comfortably with a helmet on my head without bumping the ceiling. Look at the piping on the wall. Look at the lights. This is all Hezbollah work. Look at the amount of energy and funds that they've put into trying to destroy and hurt the people of Israel. Absolutely ridiculous. It's like a machine that is all bent and aimed and targeted and bringing destruction and bringing death into Israel. Look at the depth of this tunnel. Just to frame this conversation, it's at least 5 minutes of like walking downhill through this very, very long tunnel. And it is like, it's hard to explain the magnitude of the construction over here. It's just like an incredibly well-built place. If you've ever been to like an archaeological site where they said this tunnel, it took 10 years to build it, this is more impressive than that. Heavily machined. It's got cement on the walls. You're gonna see this. So none of the water from the outside comes in. And we're underneath a village that's called Maroun Aras. I hope we're allowed to say that in the final cut of this video. I grew up in the home. My father was an engineer that did a lot of big construction projects. And when you look at the scale of engineering that's gone into this place, the level of cement work, the level of mining, the level of flattening out mountainous terrain to a straight tunnel. The electricity and the piping and the machinery and the air filtration systems and the water systems, an incredible amount of money and resources has gone into making this place what it is. It's money that could have gone to building up Lebanon, the people of Lebanon, to helping people in the poor villages in this area, and instead it's gone for destruction in an attempt to hurt the people of the state of Israel. Look at this. Mattresses, vests, sleds to pull the gear, so much equipment. Look at this room.
We have been asked not to touch anything with your hand because it's still hot
Live ammunition.
Live ammunition.
Be very careful where you step. No one wants to blow up. This is a terror tunnel of the terror organization Hezbollah, and the stairs that we saw on the way are an exit to a nearby graveyard. This tunnel is a couple hundred meters long, and there are more rooms similar like this. In these rooms and crevices, we found a lot of fighting equipment and gear, including weapons, ammunitions, and uniforms. Everything that these terrorists need to walk in as innocent civilians and walk out as a fully functioning fighting terror force. These tunnels have been built so that these terrorists could stay here for long periods of time. There's bathrooms, there's ventilation, there's food and water, and we could see significant preparation from this underground complex. You have to work extremely hard to dig in this type of land. In Gaza, we've seen hundreds of kilometers of tunnel network, and here the ground is different, so the efforts to build such an extensive network is increasingly difficult and much harder to do. It took nearly a decade to build what we're seeing around us, including very sophisticated techniques and machinery. This is one of the warriors who found the tunnel and did the initial clearing of it, and he's going to share some of his experience.
So I think the most important thing about this tunnel is the entrances. The entrances are in the middle of the cemetery. We place their entrances in special places, like cemeteries, hospitals, and children's rooms.
How many people does this tunnel support?
Inside one of these rooms, it goes close to 100, and a few of these rooms, so a few hundred terrorists could be waiting in these sleeper underground networks.
There's everything you would need to take a person that comes in flip-flops and shorts and bring him out on the other side, a fully equipped terrorist ready to invade Israel with the purpose of killing Israelis. And the numbers we're hearing here are incredible. We're 10 to 50 meters underground. The tunnel is hundreds and hundreds of meters long. You start noticing the small details in these halls. You have electricity that's built to spec. You have sprinkler systems on the ceiling of these rooms. These are built into bedrock. Some of it is a hard limestone. I was asking some of the soldiers here. And some of it is even stronger and harder granite rocks. They have these carts that they specially built to pull in and out equipment. You can see sort of their phone systems and, communication. Just like everywhere you look, there's the telltale signs of someone who's put a huge amount of money and resources and energy into building this. 10 years of work to host and hold and feed and equip and weaponize hundreds of Hezbollah terrorists. David, what can you tell us about this tunnel that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I could say that this tunnel is a whole new type of warfare. What we're experiencing here is the first of its kind in its world. And I think there are two important takeaways from what we see. The first is the extensive effort and funding that has gone into such an operation. The ground here is incredibly tough to dig in, and it requires very complex machinery and a large amount of funding. And the fact that these people, these terrorists who put so much efforts and funds, really shows where their mind is at. And the second is a big problem that we're seeing with our enemies, where they're masquerading their attacking techniques. They come into these tunnels as innocent civilians, so to speak, coming in from graveyards, from different villages, and is here inside these tunnels. They put on their gear, they put on their uniform, they take the AK-47, and in their perfect world, they would do another October 7th in the north.
What would that look like if, we're talking about 200, 300, 400 possible terrorists underground exiting from here? How close are we to Israel? How close are we to the nearest communities, if you're allowed to say?
It's very unfortunate, but we don't have to imagine what it looks like. We saw it in the south. That's exactly what they were planning here in the north. And Hezbollah has been posting about it. They've been very, very open about their intentions to kill, rape, mutilate, and kidnap as many Israelis, Jews, and Muslims alike. as possible.
Where are the people that were supposed to man this tunnel? The IDF took over this village, probably one of the first villages when we invaded southern Lebanon. Where did all the terrorists go?
In Israel's fights, we put aside the element of surprise as soon as we notify the civilians to evacuate. Israel's unprecedented efforts in evacuating civilians and minimizing civilian harms also gives our enemy an advantage that they could clear out, taking weapons and terrorists with them. It's very likely that when our notices went out, the enemies went out just with them.
Interesting.
One more time, our war is not with the people of Lebanon, it is with Hezbollah. And the fact that Hezbollah is ingrained so deeply within civilian infrastructure here makes it 100 times worse. But we will do what we can to protect the people of Israel.
We've just spent several hours with the very brave young men who make up the Tunnel Warfare Unit. Seeing them, well, I can't say everything we've seen, seeing them lugging in and out equipment and working in these incredibly confined spaces, it's hard to imagine. I mean, there's, this is a relatively broad tunnel. Thinking of having to fight, clear out this kind of tunnel full of terrorists is stressful, to say the least. This is what our enemies do. They tunnel and they burrow and they create tools of death and destruction, targeting the civilians of the state of Israel. And we need every ounce of prayers, every ounce of support, every ounce of care from around the world to stand with the state of Israel in this time. That's it. We're climbing back out into the darkness. We have to turn off the cameras and all our lights again. What a stark contrast between the light of the tunnel and the complete darkness outside. Guys, one of the interesting things that we just encountered tonight is that, well, among many different interesting things, is that right across the border, right next to this enormous terrorism tunnel, is a UN post, an enormous UN post. And instead of reporting and preventing the terrorism that has been embedded really close to the border with Israel, they're just, I don't know what they're doing there. Well, they're definitely not doing their job. They were not preventing Hezbollah from building a tunnel and were keeping terrorists right on the border with Israel. And I think people around the world, I am sure, I'm convinced people around the world need to know what's happening here. I need to know that the UN is not a solution to the situation over here, that there must be a more substantial and more robust solution to prevent Hezbollah from once again threatening the people of northern Israel. Anyway, it's been an incredible night here with the IDF going into Lebanon to see this enormous terrorism tunnel built right on the border with Israel by Hezbollah terrorists. A tunnel full of weapons, a tunnel full of equipment to equip Hezbollah terrorists who were aimed at coming into Israel to harm Israeli civilians. Hezbollah took over southern Lebanon. They took the best of the Iranian economy, the Lebanese economy, and the people of those countries, and they took all of that negative energy and built fortifications and tunnels and equipment, all aimed at fortifying the southern border of Lebanon against Israel, but not in a defensive way, in an attack way, so they can launch anti-tank missiles into Israeli homes, scare Israelis out of their houses, so they can send raids into Israeli territory and kill Israeli civilians, so they can hide Lebanese Hezbollah terrorists in those tunnels to come out on the other side of the Israeli border and again kill, kidnap, murder Israeli civilians. So when you look at that bigger picture, this isn't a question of like, did we attack, did we invade? No, we're on a protective maneuver through southern Lebanon because they've done everything they can to destroy us.
Not only that, in every one of those things that you just spoke about, we've shown that we've been in a responsive action.
Yeah.
We responded to Hamas by going into Gaza. We responded to Hezbollah by doing the activities that we're doing in Lebanon right now. And we've responded to an unprecedented attack from Iran with the most number of ballistic missiles shot from any country in history. And we've responded to them as well.
That's a good place to wrap up. What you say is very interesting to me, is IDF did not invade southern Lebanon for the purpose of attack. We invaded to protect the people of Israel. And what we found there, although the intelligence already knew most of this in advance, was sort of undeniable evidence to the fact that the Iranians, through their proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and everyone else who's willing to fight for them, are willing to destroy life for civilians in every country around the world as long as it hurts the people of Israel and the Western way of life. And I think that's really the thought to leave this with. Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.